Hello, everybody. We're back, and we're going to play a game together. We've been threatening it all year, haven't we, Steve?
We have.
We've finally come good. We did try and play a game earlier this year.
We did play a game earlier this year. We just couldn't present it to the people.
Yeah, people just had to believe us, right?
Yeah.
Like, did it happen, though? Really? But I'm sure it did. Unless I hallucinated it. But this time, we've got someone actually competent in charge of the tech. So hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll be able to share in this game experience we're going to have. What are we going to play, Steve?
We are going to play Wraithound, which feels like a very appropriate October game for us to play.
'Tis the season. Yes, we're playing Wraithound by Cezar Capacle. It's a solo or 2 or 3 player co-op game that has us playing kind of supernatural investigators, I guess, who are have the gift of kind of powers that will help us dispel evil from a certain place. And we're going to be investigating the place. We're going to be defining the place in which we are investigating and what's wrong with it, what sort of spooky business is happening. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to dispel it or die trying. We'll have all the links to this game down in the in the down belows, so you can check it out. I thoroughly recommend you do. And the game also can, if you want, come with this snazzy virtual tabletop you'll see behind us that we're going to be using to play it, which is really rather good, and it allows us to share it with you rather than just turning over playing cards on our tables and telling you what's what. So like I said, we are playing Wraithounds from the order of Wraithounds. We've established just one detail about each of us, which is our name, because we needed it for the overlay, and we're going to put the characters together in front of your very eyes, which will be quite nice. We're going to establish a few details. We're going to roll on some tables. But one cool detail that did come out of myself and Steve rolling up our names is that we both rolled the same surname, which makes us, I mean, what are we, brothers? Are we cousins? Like, what's our relationship here?
I mean, I like the idea of being brothers.
I tell you what I really like. I really like that idea of us being like half brothers, like we've got the same dad or the same mum. So we're actually quite different, and perhaps there's a bit of an age gap between us, which is we'll kind of dig into as we go. So the other
alternative,
boys, go for it.
I was going to say the other alternative, which I thought about just dropping on you, is that we introduce ourselves and then it's like, but no relation, and it just. Just happen to be Blackwoods, both of us, but no relation.
Yeah, it's a real pain for our pay slips at HR every month. But it is what it is. The other thing that we're going to define, because Wraithound's really cool, is it's got like a quite open setting. You can probably play this as like 15th century witch hunters, or this could easily be Call of Cthulhu-esque 40s era, anywhere really. What's your kind of vibe on the setting, Steve? Have you got one in particular?
I mean, I was definitely thinking kind of Victorian era, but you said that 40s Call of Cthulhu style, and I'm like, well, here, see.
Read all about it, and I can have a Tommy gun.
Exactly.
Why not?
I mean, I think I'm open for anything, really. So do you have a strong pull in one era or another?
I really like the idea of kind of early 20th century. So somewhere that's vaguely 1900s to Prohibition era, like somewhere there. Don't have to define it too much, but we know that like cameras exist and electricity exists, and I can have a Tommy gun, and all those things, because that ghosts don't like Tommy guns, which is fantastic.
Lots of cigarettes,
Oh god, I'm going to be smoking like a trooper in this, I'll let you know. So that's what we're going to go for, kind of vaguely 1900s. We don't even have to define the country, and because you're American and I'm British, people won't know, will they? It could be either. Of course not. So that's absolutely fine. So shall we introduce ourselves? So I'm Morwen Blackwood, whose epithet, I suppose, is the fox. What that means, who knows? And I actually cheated. I took two last names. Morwen is a last name in this, and I use it as a first name because it sounds cool. Who are you, Steve?
I am Cassian Blackwood, also known by some as the Claw.
The Claw, the Fox and the Claw. When things are bad, send in the Blackwood boys, the Fox and the Claw. I thought it was the Fox and the Hound. Yeah, it's just like a pleasant Disney vibe to it. That would have been perfect.
I also feel like the Fox and the Claw could be the inn that we own, that we retire to if we survive our days as Wraithhounds.
It sounds like an inn, but not one I'd want to drink in without feeling like I'd be picking up my teeth with a broken arm at some point of an evening, because it sounds a little spicy, shall we say. So the first thing we're going to establish is we are going to roll, and we'll use the little dice roller on screen. We're going to roll our drive. The book says, as a Wraithhound, you had no choice in joining the order, but that doesn't mean you lack a personal agenda. So we're going to roll and see what drives us. Steve, do you want to go first?
I would love to go first. So I'll hit my little button here. A 2 and a 6 means that it is to walk in the footsteps of a legendary Wraithhound.
Ooh.
And I'm just gonna call my shot right now. It's my mother.
But not my mother.
Correct.
Oh, that's good, isn't it? That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Keep that in mind. Then I will go. I've rolled 4. Imagine if I rolled the same thing. I've rolled a 4 and a 2. To sanctify corrupted sacred sites. Okay, so that maybe is a little thumb on the scales of what we're doing here, and perhaps what my personal goal in this. Maybe the files for this case came across our desks, and we both had very different reasons for trying to come here. Maybe this is a place that your mum didn't manage to purge of its supernatural powers at some point in the past. Very interesting, both interesting drives. So the next thing we're going to establish is our talent. Every Wraithhound expresses their supernatural powers in a particular way with a blend of innate or acquired skills. You are a versatile hunter. So tell us, Steve, how does Cassian express his supernatural powers?
Well, it's with a 6 and a 1, which means with gracious movements, quick thinking, and a sharp dagger. A claw, perhaps.
You're such a stabber of ghosts.
Yes.
It's like 50% of the jobs you're just no good for. Like ghouls, you're fine, you can stab them up, but ghosts, you just kind of it's a real wet noodle area. Right, so how do I do it? So 6 and a 2, is that what you just rolled?
No, I rolled 6 and a 1.
You rolled 6 and a 1. Crafting illusions to confuse and control adversaries. So we've actually got here quite nicely 2 different approaches. We've got not a brains and a brawn, but like I'm going to use the power of close-up magic. That's what I'll be doing to befuddle the exactly. We've got Chris Angel and a knife-wielding thug going into a haunted house. There we go. Sold everyone.
It's it's perfect.
It is perfect. So we'll note that down and think about how we're going to solve particular problems. Now we're going to get into probably the most important part of this game, which is our attire and how we're dressed, what kind of threads we're rocking to go in, because you got to look good doing this. Otherwise, what's the point?
Of course.
So what have you got, Steve?
Well, in the finest attire, I've got a 2 and a 3, which is beige breeches and matching doublet.
Fantastic. You happy with that? Did you want to stick with that, or are you re-rolling, or?
I mean,
if you're a stabber, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like beige definitely is gonna show up all that like ghostly goo. So maybe I'll try re-rolling. Just see. I'll see if I get something different that feels a little better. Ornate scale armor with a cloak.
Yeah.
In 1920s, or whatever. Like,
well, I mean, how do you define armor? Really, like, is it like a bulletproof vest or something that you've got that you wear under your clothes, or is that something? Or do you want to roll again?
Nope, I'm gonna go with that.
Keeping it.
Yep.
Bringing dragon scale armor into the 20s.
Yeah.
Right, I've rolled a 5 and a 2 for my look, which is a hooded overcoat with a dragon scale motif. So again, this is kind of perfect. Like you've got the dragon scales as a practical, and mine's more a kind of a flourish. Like mine, I'm there for the aesthetics of dragons. I'm not the actual practicalities of it, which feels about right for these jokers that we're rolling up. Right, next is what kind of hairstyle and what our eyes are like. Do you want to give it a roll, Steve?
So I got 2 and a 1, which is slicked back raven hair.
Sounds right.
Yep.
And then eyes?
And eyes are a 6 and a 5, which is glistening onyx eyes.
This guy is so metal. It's just like such a solid look. I'm going to roll, and I've got a backup that I've picked out if it doesn't work out for me. So let's see what fate says. 6 and 4. Sculpted jade waves. Like, is that what? Have I got green hair?
Yeah.
Fucking
sculpted though.
Sculpted. It's made of ivory, like Chevy Chase's dad in Community. Like, yeah, I'm down with sculpted jade waves. I'm into
awesome.
that. And my eyes are 1 and 6, makes it deep blue eyes. Right now we need to roll up a trinket, which is a little objet that we're going to use. It says, as part of your training as a Wraithound, the Order has bestowed upon you a particular object. Its function remains a mystery, but they are hinted that it could aid you in your mission. And in this game, there are no stats, there are no abilities, so it's just all narrative. What have you rolled, Steve?
I rolled a 2 and a 4, which is a trio of interconnected metallic pedals that, when fanned out, resonate with a harmonic tone tuned to your heartbeat. Yes!
This is so gnarly. Let's see what I got. 3 and a 6. That is a dense, fabric-covered cube with vibrant, liquid-flowing lines embroidered across it. I've got a material cube. Okay.
Do you want to re-roll?
I will re-roll it, but I'm happy to go back to the cube if the next one doesn't grab me because it is weird. I'm up for unpacking what that is. 1 and a 2, which is a small, delicate cube. What is it with cubes? A small, delicate cube made of transparent crystal containing a swirling silver vapor that never settles. Interesting. I think that's part of my illusion kit. I think that's something that I can use to focus that ethereal power. That's all of our setup for the characters. And we'll recap that and introduce them when we actually start playing. But the next thing we're going to do is we are going to define what the mission is. So the cards that you can see behind us, they represent a location, and we're now going to roll to see what that is. And then we're also going to roll to define an aspect of the haunting, like something that in particular happens that is perhaps why we're there. And this game is about us finding out what's doing it and stopping it. And like I said, there's no canonical answers anywhere. There's just lots of clues, and we kind of just figure it out. Steve, do you want to roll the mission, please?
Absolutely. We've got a 4 and a 6, which is the Seafarer's Retreat, a coastal mansion built from shipwrecks.
I actually looked at the table before we started, before we joined this call, and I was like, man, how cool is that one? And we've rolled it. So that's perfect. Very cool. So a coastal mansion. We can fill in the details of that. And now we're going to establish the haunting. It says, when you receive your mission briefing, the exact nature of the supernatural disturbance remains unclear. However, initial signs of activity have already manifested. So we're going to kind of consider this as our first clues whilst we investigate the manor. So what have we got?
We have a 2 and a 3. Pools of water in the garden boil spontaneously, steaming with ghostly faces.
That's pretty strong, isn't it? That's pretty strong as it goes.
Yep.
So let's recap then. So we have 2 Wraithounds, Morwen Blackwood, the fox, whose drive is to sanctify corrupted sacred sites, who enjoys to craft illusions to confuse and control adversaries. He's wearing a hooded overcoat with dragon scale motif, has sculpted jade waves, deep blue eyes, and a small, delicate cube of transparent crystal, which contains swirling silver vapor that never settles. Tell us about Cassian, please, Steve.
Yeah. So Cassian Blackwood, the Claw, his drive is to walk in the footsteps of a legendary Wraithound. His talent is with gracious movements, quick thinking, and a sharp dagger. He deals with threats. He is wearing ornate scale armor with a cloak, which I think is probably like interlocking metal plates that are kind of tucked under his coat, that he kind of like, makes him look a little bit more kind of bulky than he is, but he's also a lot faster than he seems. He's got slicked back raven hair, glistening onyx eyes, and he has a trio of interconnected metallic petals that, when fanned out, resonate with a harmonic tone tuned to your heartbeat.
Very nice. And the mission we're doing is taking place at the Seafarer's Retreat, which is a coastal mansion built out of bits of old shipwreck. And our initial clue for the haunting is ghostly faces in boiling pools of water in the garden. Fascinating setup.
Yep.
Yeah, what could go wrong? So how do we think the Blackwood boys travel? Do we think we arrive in a horse-drawn carriage or an early automobile? What do you think?
I think it's an early automobile, but I think it's an early automobile that maybe is like it's not it's fueled by like ectoplasm or something like that, where it's like part of the deal is, in order for you to get from mission to mission, like you've got to succeed. You gotta get that fuel. Otherwise we got to walk back, and like, it's a little bit of a way for us to we've got some extra incentive.
I like the idea that every mission that we do and Wraithounds do, there has to be some kind of material gain as well from it, because I think we've already imagined this to be a capitalist society instantly, which is, obviously, and I really like the idea that like we're using it to kind of power ourselves, I guess. So I think that this has got to be nighttime, because this is a spooky game. Otherwise, what we're doing, and I think I like the idea that this coastal mansion is sort of on a cliff overlooking the sea, like right on the cliff, and perhaps we've had to wind this really tight coastal road, which is, quite unstable. And it would be for ordinary people who are, normies would find this quite stressful. But I think us, the Blackwood boys, we've seen some stuff. So this is just a walk in the park for us. So just a quick question. As we approach the manor, what detail do you think you see that us as Wraithounds would instantly know means that we are about to enter a haunted place?
I think that it's just around dusk, like this, so the sun has set, and like those last little gleamings of red are kind of running along the horizon, along the water. And as we are approaching, kind of puttering along in our automobile, we see these crows that are kind of flying overhead, but it almost seems as though there's an invisible barrier where they don't cross this threshold. And so there are no birds flying over this mansion. There's no living activity that we can see or hear that draws close to it.
Very nice. I like that very much. I think there's a lighthouse that's a way off, and it's in the water on like a little rock on its own. It's a kind of a very thin, spindly thing. And this mansion we're going to, this retreat, is made from bits of shipwreck, right? So it stands to reason these waters are kind of dangerous. Maybe this area was a smuggler's cove back in the day, but it was a very kind of treacherous one. Maybe there's a network of sea caves beneath where this is built. But I think that the lighthouse has a really irregular pattern of shining its lantern, and I think that it's almost like this pale blue spectral light rather than any kind of warm orange glow. There's nothing welcoming about the sign of this lighthouse, and I think every time it rotates round and the light catches the mansion, I think that Morwen especially can almost hear the faint anguished screams of the people who went down with the ships. So it's got this kind of like pulsing rhythm that's just really slow and eerie. Maybe it's even irregular. Maybe it doesn't quite go around on the beat, as it were. So I think it's a very eerie scene. Now, as we said, the manor house we're investigating is represented by these cards that are in 3 levels. That does not necessarily mean that there's 3 floors. So I think we can maybe expand upon this as we go. But I think the one thing I'd like to establish now is that this is a very big place. And it's assumed in the rules that, it is occupied, but for our investigation, it isn't. So it could be abandoned, and it could be like long, like overgrown and left to time, or it could just be that we've been called in and the occupants have said we'll be out at the summer house whilst you deal with this nonsense. Take as much ectoplasm as you want, and there's some food in the fridge for you. But do you think that as we approach, we think that this is somewhere that has been overtaken by time and nature, or is this somewhere that someone actively lives?
I kind of like the idea that this is a place that someone actively lives, but it's one of those situations where it's a family that was once rich and powerful, but through the ravages of time and the changes of society no longer has the same kind of power and wealth that they had before. And so whoever owns this house, whoever lives in this house, like this may be the final asset that they have in this kind of family. And so it's kind of in disrepair in a lot of places because it's just far too expansive to maintain on a more limited budget. But I think that the person who lived here probably like saw those ghostly faces in the pools of water in the garden and like obviously freaked out, a very normal human response. And maybe they like left the house and are down at the local pub drinking and telling the story to the other people in the pub. And that is how word came to us to come and investigate.
And I think that it's probably escalated to a degree that like they're now just not going to the pub to get away from it. They've left the area and they're going to like stay in another town or whatever because it's got so bad. Speaking of these pools and the gardens and stuff, do we think that there is, as we said, it's on a cliff, so how do we imagine those gardens to be part of the residence?
I'm imagining the residence itself being set right up against the edge of the cliff. And then the gardens you almost have to like pass through the gardens to get to the house. And maybe there was a time where that cliffside was a little further back and the gardens looped all the way around to the other side of the mansion. But again, as time passes on, the decay of society and of the natural area around it has led to it being right on the cliffside.
Well, here's my little bit of hot sauce. I will sprinkle on it. Is that I think that passage of time is actually very short. I think that maybe even a couple of years ago, there was much more. It was much further away from the cliff edge, but this erosion is happening very quickly, almost in line with this haunting. And maybe that's what's kind of instigated the owner to get us involved. That like the worse it gets, thinks that like maybe it's expediting the the erosion of the manor house, and very shortly it will be in the sea. I like that very much. So these pools of water, I have this kind of idea that perhaps it's not like, oh, there's now suddenly 6 or 7 pools of water with weird faces in them. I wonder it's wherever water collects. So maybe there's a bird bath. Or there's like, an old pail of like, a bucket. There's an old well maybe, and the pail next to it, if that fills up with water, then suddenly you might see a face in it. And as a result, I think that all of those things, anything that could gather pools of water, has been turned over. Like holes have been filled in, potholes have been repaired, things, flower pots have been turned over so they won't gather any water. That was kind of my take. Anything you want to add to that, or fill in on that?
No, I love that. I think that's great. I think maybe the only thing I might add to that, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but probably once we go into the house, we find like glasses and mugs and stuff like that have been like chucked on the ground and shattered. And so there's just this debris of, drinking vessels or bowls or whatever that are just kind of scattered around the kitchen, because maybe it's been creeping inside as well.
Oh, I like that very much. And we'll get to that. So that's something we can play with, this kind of the idea that water is collecting. And that kind of feeds so nicely into the fact that we're at a cliffside residence, which is made out of bits of an old shipwreck. Bits of an old shipwreck heavily implies that the structure is entirely wooden. But I think that perhaps it's a mixture of materials. There's old stone from like a quarry down the road. But like there's a lot of the detailing, a lot of the fascias and everything, and the decorative elements. I think I really like the idea of there being wood. And I think that as we approach the front door, I think there is a figurehead, a ship's figurehead above the door. If that's the case, what's the figurehead?
So the name of this place is the Seafarer's Retreat. So I feel like it should be something that really ties in, not just with like being on the sea, but a place to kind of retreat to. So maybe it is kind of shaped like a cave. So it's, like you've got the shape of the door is the cave, and then that figurehead maybe coming out of it is some sort of maybe like predatory bird or something like that, that might kind of like descend into the cave to like fish or hide or whatever. I don't know. Does that even make sense?
No, I like it. I think I like the idea of even though it's a man-made structure, the door feeling like a natural entrance, like a cave entrance. I like the idea that it's a bird, like it's a sea eagle or something, or an osprey. And maybe it's got something in its claws, like an eel or something, or maybe the eel is wrapped around the bird and it's kind of like gripped in this battle to kind of end its life. So
I've got a question. So the shipwreck, like the shipwrecks that make up this mansion, do we think that those are like that this mansion has always been built out of shipwrecks, or do we think there was an existing structure that was initially here, maybe a stone house or something like that, and that at some point in the last, fill in the time of the amount of time, those shipwrecks were kind of dredged out and brought up the cliffside to expand the house?
Well, if we really want to get into the weeds, and we really want to dig into the idea of the ship of Theseus, then why the hell not? The ship, the house has been slowly repaired with elements of shipwreck parts, bits of mast and hull that's been, dashed upon the rocks down below, and eventually over the centuries, because this is an ancient place, right? Over the centuries. There's no remaining wood left of the original structure. There's maybe the stone foundations and maybe the odd wall or whatever, but all the wood has been replaced, but it's been replaced with this cursed timber that has been, where souls have been dragged down to the watery depths, and all that remains is these fragments of great ships that have been, or maybe even like smaller ships. Like it's got everything in it. And I think like everything And we'll feed this in when we start to discover the interior of this place. But like, you know, there's a lot of detailing and small things that are parts of ships.
Yeah.
I really like that idea. So we're about to enter this godforsaken place, which is already pretty spooky. Do you think, as an investigative pair, we have any kind of pre-haunting rituals that we do?
I think that Cassian probably checks his dagger and like checks the edge on it, and I think that it in and of itself looks fairly normal as a blade, but I think that there is a like a ribbon with some sort of charm that he wraps around his hand and kind of ties off, so that when he grips the dagger blade, it kind of, that little charm sort of hangs down from below. And I think that that charm is it looks as though it is a like bonfire that is burning, and that is because while we were on break, I was thinking about it, and I rolled up on the name table that my mother's this legendary Wraithound, her pseudonym is the Flame.
I love that very much. Which leads me to like feeding off that. Then, if I'll take that and run with it. So whilst you're, you know, familiarizing yourself with your blade, I think Morwen gets out this small cube, and I actually think it's not like the Tesseract. It's not like a big cube. It's a lot smaller, kind of like maybe half a Rubik's cube. But I think that like if your motif is that flame, then mine is smoke, and I think that my little cube is just full of this because it's got like a vapor that never settles in it, and I think that it's just this like swirling kind of cigarette smoke almost that just kind of intensifies and then fades away and then comes back. And I really like the idea that we are connected in a way, but we are not the same. And I wonder whether there's a slight antagonism between us. Like, I look at you getting ready to solve this problem in your way, and you look at me getting ready to solve the problem in my way. And I wonder whether there's this acknowledgement that we don't understand each other's methods, but we know that we would maybe be lost without each other. Is that something that's an interesting kind of relationship type thing?
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
So, any last words before we enter?
I mean, I think it's interesting because I think maybe this is where the bond is, where we each kind of have this ritual way of preparing ourselves to go into this haunted place. But then once we've kind of done the ritual part of it, I think maybe Cassian like pulls out a cigarette, lights it, pulls out a second one, and kind of like basically lights like two cigarettes and then hands one over to you. And it's almost that that shared moment of like, you know, hey, we could go in here and die. So like this might be our last cigarette. Like let's make it a good one.
And I actually really like the idea that we stand and smoke it to the end in silence before we go in, like it's that we're about to be executed and it's our last cigarette. Yeah, very good. I like that very much. But other than that, I think we like slip wordlessly into our work. So let's discover our first room. We're going to start at level 1, where the stakes are a little lower and things are a little easier. And I'll explain that as we go. But first, we've got to reveal a room that we find. So would you like for me to turn over the left card, the right card, or the middle card?
Let's go middle. I feel good about the middle.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn over the card. It actually turns 3 cards over. They're all 3s. That means something, but we'll get to that in a bit. So the first thing we're going to look at is the 3 of hearts that is in the center there, and that's going to define what room we're looking at. Now, here it says the room is the dining room. So that's where we're beginning our exploration of this manor. And there is a little bit of flavor. It says lingering traces of nostalgia and overindulgence. So let's bring the dining room to life. Do we think it's grand? Do we think it's opulent? Do we think it's a place where happy things happened? Do we think it's a site of trauma or familial discord? How do we feel about the dining room?
I think it's all of those things at once. So I think we kind of walk through the entrance, and there's maybe there's the foyer, and then there's a couple of passages that go off in either direction. But we walk forward through this massive pair of doors that lead into just an immense dining room. And I think that there's probably a very opulent chandelier hanging from the ceiling, but you can see the cracks in the ceiling where the weight of it has caused stress. I think that we see, this long table that maybe at one time had a very beautiful tablecloth draped over it, but now there's a very small tablecloth that's like covering one end of it, where there's maybe 2 chairs set up, and there's probably cabinets with fine china along one side, but maybe those cabinets are dusty.
I really like the idea that grand table is made of decking. It has to be, and it's mismatched. So the larger tablecloth that would have been used in the past perhaps would have covered that. And I like the idea that perhaps there is an opulent chandelier, but maybe parts of the crystal have been replaced with bits of lanterns from ships, little oil lamps and whatnot have been there to replace it. I really like the idea that the crockery in the china cabinet, the cabinet where the china is kept, because ships would have the ship's name on the crockery. They're all different ships, and it's all mismatched. And I really like that idea. No matter what state we see in now, what do we see that we can tell is a sign of past overindulgence? I think, to start us off, I think there is, standing in the corner upright, there is a platter that would have had the roast of the day or whatever on it. And I think this is one that would be carried in on people's shoulders. And I think that some banquet or other that ended in some kind of disgrace or some kind of like conflict, that's the last time that's been used, and it's never been returned to the servants' quarters or the scullery or the kitchen or anything. It now just stands as a testament to those days where we could have afforded to eat an entire like pig or wild boar that was brought in by 4 people.
Yeah. I think also we see at the end of this table, there is a massive chair that looks like it could be a throne, but instead of it being, a king's throne, it is a famous captain's chair from their cabin. And there's all sorts of things like carved into it. And some of them are very obviously from when this was in use on the sea. But I think there's also then now signs of like children have carved like their initials into it and stuff like that. And so it's this almost like fall from power, where once some feared captain would sit in this chair and, survey their domain. And now it's a toy basically for children to carve rude things into.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that very much. So that's the general vibe of the dining room that we've established, and I think that Morwen is kind of scanning over the room with a little lamp, and maybe in his other hand he's kind of like nervously rolling that cube around. The next thing we're going to do, because we pulled 3 cards here, the 2 red cards are what basically brings it to life, and the black card is what gives us an issue. Under the curiosity, which is the card down in the bottom left there, we are going to read what it says on the bottom there is the curiosity, which is we can ignore the first 2 bits. But the curiosity says, portraits change expression subtly. What emotion do they capture? So who has their portrait hanging in this dining room?
So I almost, because we've been really tapping into the seafaring nature of this place, I almost imagine that this family, maybe at one point, they were the owners of a large merchant fleet or something like that, where they had a lot of ships that sailed under them, and maybe they had well-known captains who were part of their organization, and some of those people would have also been family members. And so I think at least half of the portraits in here are of these captains from a variety of different times, so different regalia, different art styles and ways of capturing their portraiture, but they are kind of arrayed on one side, and then on the other side is, I think, portraits of the family in more like family life style. And so it's this weird kind of juxtaposition where they're almost like staring across the room at each other, of like, there's the seafarers, and then there's the, you know, the people who had to stay behind on land, and
Landlubbers and the seafarers. I like that idea.
Yes.
Yeah. I really like the idea, going off that there is this almost this gallery of celebrated and decorated captains of the sea, like maritime legends. But I really like the idea that they're all quite big portraits, but one of them has clearly been replaced, and it's a lot smaller. And that portrait is of a smirking, like a woman maybe, and she is a notorious pirate. And at some point in this house's history, some person who had, you know, in some way got renown for their seafaring has been replaced with this brigand. And whether or not she's a hero to the family who changed this picture, or whether she's the person who changed that picture, I don't know. But the prompt says in the curiosity, the portraits change their expression subtly. So how do we see that happening, and what are they changing from and to?
So I almost wonder if, first of all, I love the idea of this one of these portraits being replaced, and I wonder if we like come into this room, and you know those like paintings or like statues where the eyes have been carved in such a way that wherever you stand, it feels like they're watching you. I almost feel as though as we step across the threshold into this room, we experience this feeling of like all of these eyes turning to look at us, even if it's not that the portraits themselves are animated, it's just the way that they're painted. But I think that kind of drilling down even further, we feel that expression, that focus turned towards us. And I think that portrait of this brigand, the smirk remains, but maybe there's like a little eyebrow that like quirks up. And it's just like, it happens so quickly that it could just be a trick of the light, or there could be something else there.
And I think I like that, and I think that there is something else there, because on the other side of the wall, and perhaps Morwen and Cassian are looking at the separate sides.
Yeah.
When I first walked in, I think Morwen looks over the faces of the families, you know, the everyday civilians, and they're painted in, you know, very formal ways. They're like artistically and stylistically, they're kind of stood outside the house maybe in better times, and maybe that's where we see the house has changed quite a lot over time. And you know, they're all got fairly neutral expressions that people used to have in those old like paintings. They didn't do a lot of smiling, but I think perhaps when Morwen goes back for another look, every member of this family looks frightened of the people on the other side of the wall of the room, like almost like each one is looking at that change in the pirate captain and are reacting, and you can see perhaps the color drain from their face, their eyes widen slightly. Maybe, you know, they're one of the paintings has got like a dog, and the dog's ears flatten against its head as if it's, you know, its heckles are about to go up and it's about to be you know, be defensive. Any other like changes in those paintings you think that could help bring this to life?
Like there's probably always a slight scent of the sea, kind of because we're so close to the water in this place, but almost as if the like the backgrounds of these sea captain paintings are moving a little bit. Maybe there's just like a faint caw of gulls, and you know, we could totally be convinced that we're hearing them out in the actual sea, but it's just a little like it echoes differently in this cavernous room, and that smell of the sea is just a little bit stronger even than when we walked through that entry hall. And I think similarly, those portraits on the other side of the family, they almost maybe dim a little bit, and the sea kind of brightens as if there's something like calling the sea, and like,
and I think it's
like this pull, like the
it's
tide.
interesting as it's interesting as well, because you know, you said we heard the odd caw of a seagull, but we know that birds don't fly over the top of this house because we established that. So like they're you know, we know that they're not in the house, but their calls are closer than they can feasibly be. How do you think Cassian's feeling at this point?
I think Cassian is intrigued and wary. I don't think that he has necessarily seen anything that is causing him any distress yet. But I think he's curious about this juxtaposition between you know, the one side of the portraits and the other, because I think in many ways he and Morwen are portraits standing on opposite sides, you know, watching each other.
And I think that's actually a really nice framing of a scene. Like we've both looked at the pictures on either side of the wall, and we've both turned to look back at each other, and we don't really have to say a lot in our you know, in our expressions. We both know what we've seen. And I think that Morwen is looking at his little cube, and he's maybe, you know, almost like he's reading the tea leaves. He's seeing some shift in that smoke, and you know, he kind of fixes Cassian and says, "Best be on our guard, brother."
Yes, I agree.
What does the flame tell you?
The flame says there is much in here that can burn. I hope it doesn't come to that.
And I think that Morwen gives you a look and an arch eyebrow as if to say, 2 jobs ago we had to burn the manor down.
I think that's his go-to move. It's just like, well, we don't know what to do. Let's burn it down.
Yeah, let's burn it down.
It worked for Mom.
Great.
Like, it's fine.
Great. I think that's really cool, and that's a really good place to introduce either a threat or a horror. So this final card will introduce a threat or a horror. If it's a club, it's a threat that's an environmental thing and challenge that we might have to overcome. And if it's a spade, then it's a horror, which is a supernatural entity. We've got the 5 of clubs here, and it says the gale. It says doors slam shut with violent force, windows rattle, people fall with powerful unseen winds. Okay. So, do you think that this moment is suddenly interrupted by that call of the sea, and maybe a squall coming in, and how does that affect us?
Yeah, I think we share this moment, but as we're kind of looking at each other and we have this exchange, that feeling of pressure in the air is building and building and building until finally it can't do anything else but release. And I think even maybe the chandelier starts swaying just a little bit as that pressure is building. Maybe there's a slight rattle of the cookware in the cabinet, and then all of a sudden chaos breaks loose. How does that look? What's the chaos?
I think because we've got this thing with water showing the faces of these ghosts, on the grounds, I wonder if when water enters the house it changes in a way, and I wonder whether the windows blow open and there's maybe wooden hatches on the outside that have been they've been disrepaired, so this has allowed this to happen. And as the water comes in, it almost turns into a hand that reaches for us, whether it's to grab us and pull us out or to try and kind of just crush us. I'm not sure, but I wonder whether that's the manifestation of the water that the house brings to life.
Yeah, I love it.
Great. So that's going to happen. So go on.
Oh, I was going to say Cassian's going to dive under the table.
So this is how we have to now try and face this this problem, and we do that by rolling dice. We've got no stats in this game, but what we do is we're going to roll the 2 dice, and we are going to assign a positive outcome to one of them and a negative outcome to the other. Now this gets harder as we go up. So on level 1 we are going to perhaps be a little easier on ourselves, and we're going to say to overcome whatever problem we have, we need 1 successful roll to overcome it. When we get to level 2, we might need to do 2, and in level 3 it's very difficult, so we might have to do it 3 times. And that is, we have to kind of set of what we think the objectives are. And I think in this instance we're both just getting out of the way. I think that's right.
Yeah.
So and you can assign a good outcome and a bad outcome to the dice, or you can assign a good outcome or a good outcome with a complication to the other one. And I think it's because this is our first room, I wonder whether the first outcome on the red dice is that we are going to dodge this spectral wet hand that's coming through the window. And I wonder whether the next dice dodge this hand of mist and rain that's coming through the window. But I'm going to put a bit of pepper on it that says one of us is going to have some kind of connection to the spirit here. One of us is going to get a glimpse into this thing's power. So that's a slightly negative outcome, but it's also we we're not going to be hurt by this thing. Do they sound like decent enough stakes to you? Do you want to add anything to those?
No, I think that sounds good.
If we roll a double, then there's an additional thing on that happens, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So do you want to roll those dice? So the red is the positive and the black is the slightly less positive.
All right, here we go. Hey.
Okay. Tell us how Cassian evades the incoming supernatural entity.
Yeah, so I think that that Cassian is on the side of the room where kind of the doors crash open, and this hand kind of this spectral watery hand comes like darting in and tries to grab a hold of him, but he is gracious. He moves with grace. He's quick thinking, and he also has a sharp dagger. So I think that what he does, instead of diving under the table, is that he actually kind of takes a quick run towards, like, along the wall of portraits, and he actually kind of jumps up and cuts down one of the portraits as he's going past, and kind of shoves it into this like hand, this spectral gust, and it almost like grabs a hold of that and just wrenches it out through the door. And this portrait of this maybe 15th century captain, you can hear the splintering of the wood and the tearing of the canvas as the painting is just wrenched through the hall and out the window into the open air.
Love it. I really like the idea that this thing is searching us out, and I think that maybe you deal with one of them. Maybe it's like almost like a hydra of hands, if you can imagine that, like lots of these kind of groping hands, and you deal with that one by using this portrait as a shield. And I think that Morwen absolutely 100% would have reacted second to this, and I think that as he turns, he sees another hand forming out of this vapor and this water, like knocking over the chairs and like smashing the table, and then another one forms and comes for him. And I think he turns and he holds his cube between his hands like this, and he just turns and strikes a very still pose. And then I think that a portrait of him appears on the wall next to him, like maybe in a space between portraits, and then the hand that is going for him suddenly changes direction and smashes through the wall, leaving the kind of the splinters going, and we see the water just kind of pooling down. I wonder whether the water pulls down on the floor from this kind of expended energy, and Morwen just sees the very faintest of faces kind of looking back at him briefly, and then maybe the water pulls and then just disappears through the cracks in the floorboards, and then it's gone. But just for that moment, he saw that ghostly reflection looking at him.
I love it.
It's good, right? So the way that we get to choose, like, did we resolve that situation well, or did it go badly? I think we did well there. So
we did all right.
What happens is when you resolve a scene well, is it gets added to the top here, the power stack, and there's also, if it goes badly, then you add it to the peril stack. And what these two stacks do is they essentially set up the final boss fight, and they represent how well things have gone for you, and what kind of power the boss has, right? So what we need to do is, and we can put our thumb on the scale when we're doing this, is we kind of want to go into the boss battle with an even-ish number of cards on each side. One or two extra on either side is fine, but if like you've got 10 cards on one side and 3 cards on the other side, it's going to be very one-sided, and there are ways that we can add. So to add, you're going to click the power button, and it'll add the little challenge card up there. But before I do that, like I said, I thought we initially got 3 of the same card, but that's just my eyes. We got 3 and 2 5s is what we got. If you ever pull 2 of the same cards in the 3 that you turn over, you uncover a secret room. So we've got these 2 5s, so we've uncovered a secret room, and we're going to look at that right now. But first, I'm going to add that to the power stack. Now, the secret room is a shortcut, and it's a way to get from one floor to another. Now, we don't have to use it. We can also make a scene about it. But I thought I would set this up nicely by having the watery fist punch a hole in the wall where it thought my portrait was. So I would very much like to investigate the secret room. Whether we use the shortcut now or whether we want to investigate something else on this floor, it's up to us. So what we're going to do is we are going to press the secret room here. This is links the first level to the second. Now, we've got 3 options on the card again. We want to go in the middle one. Do you want to read us what the secret room is on this card?
The Lantern Room. Eternal flickers of light cast shadows of ancient tales.
Now that seems very fitting for our purposes. You know, this place made of bits of old ship. I wonder if do you want to discover this room? And I wonder if, like, we share a look after the spectral threat has been avoided, and I walk away, and maybe you look through the hole that's been caused. And would you like to go and investigate this room? Or
yeah, let's do it. I think it is this moment of like the fist crashes through the wall, and now there's this gaping hole, but it's pitch black in there, and you kind of glance at it and then kind of pass it by, and I'm standing on the other side of the room looking at it, and almost like there's a spark, this just glimmer of red light ignites, and then kind of like someone turning up dimmable lights, the light starts to build and grow as this lantern inside of this room ignites. And I think that Cassian feels this warmth from the pendant, from that little charm hanging from his dagger, attached to his hand. And I think he looks at it and he says, "Brother, what do you suppose that is?" And starts to make his way around and steps through that opening into the room.
I think it's really funny that perhaps Morwen says, "Probably not what you think it is, brother." And then he turns around and you're gone. You've disappeared through this hole in the wall. And maybe you then appear where my portrait was. So you're like in that space. And then maybe Morwen comes over and looks. And this is called the Lantern Room. Would it be a stretch for the original lantern from the lighthouse to be kept in there? I wonder whether, I said it was like a spectral bulb. Yeah. I wonder whether back in the day, the lighthouse was built and it was, a regulation lighthouse, but it just wasn't doing the trick. So they needed to infuse it with some kind of supernatural power. And now that's what we've got. Whether that's worked well or whether it's had an unintended consequence, shall we say, who knows? We'll find out. But I wonder whether this is where the original lantern is kept, this huge kind of 3-sided thing. And I wonder whether they've locked it away on purpose. Like, I wonder whether they're keeping it for a time when this place isn't so cursed, maybe.
I think so too, and I want to propose that maybe my drive to walk in the footsteps of a legendary Wraithound, maybe that's more literal than like, oh, I want to become a legendary Wraithound. And what if that change in the lantern was more recent, like in the last 20, 30 years? And maybe it was the Flame who came here and swapped out that lantern and replaced it with this spectral light for some other purpose. And now either that purpose has been served and it's now kind of been corrupted, or maybe this is that purpose. Maybe the plan was always to draw something here for other Wraithhounds to come deal with.
And I wonder whether Morwen sees you kind of pondering this and says, feeling the weight of familial expectation, are we, brother?
And I think maybe there's some symbol or something like, or something that is reminiscent of his mother, and I think he just kind of like reaches out to touch it. Maybe it's even like a letter, and he reaches out to touch it, and it just bursts into flame, like it's not for him. And like his hand pulls back and the flame gutters out, and he just kind of turns back to you and says, I don't know what to think.
Perhaps we best not touch things we don't understand.
I suppose that's a wise course of action, brother. And, I think he'll look around the rest of the room, but taking that into consideration is not going to touch anything. But I think his eyes keep darting back to this lantern and this letter that is the address on the paper is clearly written in his mother's handwriting, but the name that he sees is not like doesn't ring any bells for him.
I think as well, you won't have seen it, or Cassian won't have seen this, but Morwen's cube is going nuts. Like it looks like a solid grey cube. It's like full of such dense smoke. It doesn't look like it's changing, which is kind of a problem, I think.
Yeah.
The big question for us is, do we want to take this secret passage through the secret room? Do we want to take this shortcut? Do we feel like dealing with 1, 2, or 3 wet hands has prepared us to move through the gears of difficulty? Personally, I'm all for it. But what do you think?
I am all for it as well. Onward into danger.
Absolutely. So the good news about finding a secret room is we get to take a bonus black card, and we get to put it on our power stack. So I'm going to take one of the black cards from level 1 and just put it on our power. So now we have 2 cards in the power stack and none in the peril. What could go wrong?
Don't worry.
We'll get there. Cool. So which room should we go for? Left, right, or middle?
I mean, I know that the secret room, area being off to the right is not saying anything about the layout of this, but I feel like it makes sense to come out on that right side.
Cool. Let's do it. So I'm going to click the reveal, and we don't have any matches, so we're not going to find a secret room in this one. Tell us what we stumble into, please.
Oh, the music room. The free vibration of unfinished melodies.
Now, I said it like instantly when we turned up that every time the spectral light of that lighthouse touched the house and kind of caught the edges of the house with this pale blue light, we heard the screams or the anguished wails of people who were lost to the shipwrecks. I wonder whether in time with that, when you step into this music room, which is I think it's more like it's less a practical music room and it's more like a collection of, it's like a museum to music, right? There's instruments and things, there's lots of stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder whether in the same rhythm as that lighthouse turns round slowly, we hear just excerpts of shanties as they go around. We just hear them, and like different songs, like almost like we're hearing the crews, being intimate with each other in that kind of like, celebratory way, cheering together, singing. Maybe there's like some harmonies. They've got the shanty call and response songs. They're work songs, right? Shanties. They're for each member of the crew to say their bit, to keep in time and, do the rigging and all that kind of stuff. And that's what we hear as it goes round. But on the outside of the house, you would hear the screams and the torments. What do you think to that?
I love it. And I think it is like Morwen is maybe inside the room, like has opened the door and has stepped through, and Cassian is still in the hallway when that blue light crosses across the house, and so I hear the screams.
Oh
And
yeah.
you hear the music, and there's a little like mingling of the two because the door is open, but like you hear the music is the dominant chord, and for me the scream is the dominant chord.
That's amazing. So what do we think is in this room? Because it doesn't feel right that it would just be a room where someone practices piano recitals or whatever, because this is a kind of a nautically themed thing. What do we think's in here? I like the idea that there's like shelves and they have like instruments from like around the world, like voyages. People have returned with like conch shells and strange piped instruments, and like percussive things. So like something you wouldn't expect to see in a like an everyday like Western household. It's got all these, maybe they're not even like instruments that people would play in like orchestras and stuff. They're like instruments of the people, like when maybe people would come off boats and things, and maybe these are all things that have washed up on shipwrecks because mariners go all over the world and they cross vast distances. So maybe this is like almost a repository for their musical stylings. I wonder if that's something that works.
I think so, and I think too that at least some of them should be instruments that like the sailors would have traded, like they would have traded something of their own for one of these instruments from across the world, as in this kind of like cultural exchange as they are traveling the trade routes. And so maybe there's an entire shelf that is kind of devoted to the gifted instruments, right? Or the instruments that were brought home as part of a very intentional action, as opposed to just stuff that's kind of washed up on shore.
I love it. Just a question. So in this room full of musical instruments, what instruments, let's pick an instrument each. Which instruments are so unusual that they unnerve us? I think there is like a flute, but it's really long because it's made of like a narwhal tusk. And what's unnerving about it is the hole that you blow in, and the finger holes are way bigger than human fingers.
Ooh, yeah, that is unnerving.
What have you got?
I think that there is a drum that is covered with some sort of material that is unidentifiable. It's not animal skin. It's not human skin. It's right. It's literally like Cassian is looking at it, and it doesn't look like any sort of material that is natural to this world.
I wonder if Morwen sees you looking at it and kind of runs a thumb across the texture of the drum, and it doesn't feel like anything. It doesn't feel like a material that's familiar.
Yeah.
And that's just unnerving. Now, interestingly, on the curiosity part of our card down the bottom here, almost perfectly fitting, it says, dancing shadows tease the corners of your vision. What forms do they assume? So what forms do these dancing shadows take in this strange, unnerving musical room?
I mean, I think some of the forms are of like figures playing these instruments, but they are, like maybe the shadows look like satyrs, dancing and like playing flutes, or like kind of goat-headed creatures like playing these drums, and just like really strange and honestly terrifying shadows like twisting, and they're always just like just out of your vision, like they're just in the periphery of your vision, so that you think you see it. Then when you turn and look, it's just, a normal kind of shadow cast across the wall. But I think that as we're kind of seeing these shadows like teasing the corner of our vision, and Cassian is standing in front of this drum, he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out that trio of interconnected metallic pedals,
Mm-hmm.
and he's gonna fan it out and kind of tap it, like flick it in the air, and this harmonic tune kind of sweeps through the room. And it's almost as if each of these instruments is responding with its own kind of musical nature. And it says that this is tuned to Cassian's heartbeat. And so it's like this harmonic tune is playing as his heart is beating, and it's his heart is a little bit raised, and it starts to kind of slow down as this harmonic tune curves around the room. But when that tone reaches this drum that's in front of him, the tone and the sound disappears into it, like it's a void of harmonic resonance. And like that interruption kind of shatters the experience, and all of those harmonic tones around the room go discordant and then stop.
I think Morwen turns to you and says, "What sinister melodies were those?"
And Cassian like puts the trinket away and says, "I have never found anything that could consume the sound, that could swallow that tune. It is a strange thing indeed."
I'm not sure what unnerves me more, brother. The silence or the melodies?
Agreed. Perhaps we should move on from this place.
Agreed.
Ere we wake something.
Speaking of which, I can see we have a spade, which is never good. We have the 10 of spades. What does it say as the horror we are going to be faced with?
The gargoyle, a hulking gargoyle entity that detaches from the manor's roof.
Now, I think to perhaps style this slightly more to the environment that we're in, I wonder whether what would be gargoyles on a normal manor house there's lots of figureheads around from smaller ships. So shall we try and envision what shape this takes?
I think I've got it.
Go for it.
Okay. So I think that the figurehead that breaks loose and comes after us is a narwhal, because that like tone from that strange flute maybe woke it up.
Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah. So how does it arrive in this music room?
So is it a corporeal thing, or is it incorporeal?
I mean, it's up to us, but I mean, I really like the idea that it's this animated wood, like it looks almost stop motion-y when it arrives. But I think because it's, you don't have the full body of the narwhal on the figurehead, it sort of has to make its motion through other bits of the house. Perhaps there's like a big section of the house has come off and has formed these kind of like splintered wooden legs that the upper body of this painted narwhal is at the top of, and it's trying to skewer us with its big tusk.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think what happens is that the narwhal's like horn just pierces through the wall, and like is big enough, and I think this room is small enough that it could potentially hit one of us as it like punches through the wall, kind of close to where that flute is set.
And I think that so we're going to need 2 successful rolls to do this. And I think that I was so perturbed by those melodies and those sailor songs that I'm perhaps very slow to react to this. So I'm going to say the stakes here for me are if the red dice is higher, I'm going to just narrowly avoid being gored by this narwhal as it bursts through the wall.
Yeah,
and I think the black dice is gonna. I think it's gonna separate me from my. I'm gonna avoid being gored, but it's gonna separate me from my cube. I think that's what I think the stakes are. Anything you want to add? Any extra spice you want to sprinkle on?
No, I think that sounds good.
Love it. Right. Oh,
buddy.
So, for a double 2, there is an option which says a third unexpected option comes to pass. I would like you to tell me what that is.
A third unexpected action comes to pass. So it's either not barely miss getting gored, or you are separated from your cube. I mean, I think that the third unexpected action is that you reach into, like, you go to like raise up your cube to use it to like help, you know, create an illusion to confuse this thing, and when you raise your hand, it's not the cube that's in your hand, it's that bone flute.
I'd like to. I've pictured. What you mean? So the bone flute is massive. So do you think it's like a smaller version of that, and it's now I've got this kind of like weird replica, or do you think it's like the illusion of it I've got in my hand?
I think that it's probably like a smaller like replica version of it, and maybe it is in and of itself illusory, but it feels tangible in your hands. It feels like something you could put to your lips and play.
Yeah, I wonder if like I was trying to conjure this something, but because the last thing I was looking at was this flute, I've come up with this incredibly useless, human-sized, possibly cursed, possibly not real, illusory flute. So yeah, I think that this has gone badly for me. This doesn't count as a success or a failure, but I think we'll count it as a failure in terms of the fact that I'm not contributing anything and I'm not out of danger. You seeing this happen, what's your move?
So I think that Cassian is going to attempt to dart forward and kind of duck underneath the goring, lancing horn that's protruding through the wall as the rest of the head kind of comes through, and is going to try and take the dagger and like treat it like a creature and just like stab up underneath its head to see if he can arrest its movement. So
what do we think the stakes are here with these dice?
I think that I don't think that he can just like kill it with a successful roll, because it's not a living creature in that way. So I think the more positive result is that he's going to slow its movement into the room. And so that gives us a little bit of more time to react and either try to withdraw or, approach it in some different way. So the more positive will be that it slows it down. Did you want to add something to it?
I've got a good idea for the negative. If
let's hear it.
I think the negative is I'm going to be gored.
I mean, I don't want that on my conscience, knowing how I roll dice. But it does feel as though what you are going to do kind of completely dropped out from under you, and my action is either going to stop it and it's going to stop right in front of you, or you're going to get gored. I think though that I'm going to say that if you do get gored, it won't be as bad because I'm still physically kind of in its way.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to slow it down even a little bit. So I don't think it would be as bad as it would have been before.
Yeah, I'm gonna get hurt. I'm not gonna get impaled.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Very
Nailed
nice.
it.
So
4 and a 3.
Tell us how it goes down.
Okay. So I think just like I described, he kind of dances and dives. He dips and ducks and dives and dodges under this stabbing horn from this narwhal, and closes in on the area where it's kind of bursting through the wooden wall, and he just drives his dagger up into it. And I think there's a flash of not quite, it's a flash of heat but not fire as the blade touches in, because it's this wooden animated figurehead, and so this heated blade just kind of cuts through the wood like butter and stops at the hilt, and he's able to kind of throw his shoulder into it as well, and that horn stops 2 inches from your chest.
Yeah, and I think that Morwen rolls out of the way. Mm-hmm. I think it was right there at his neck, maybe, and he kind of sees you grappling with it, and with this, and maybe you're still stuck in, and maybe the narwhal is trying to shake you off.
Yep.
And I think that as Morwen rolls out of the way, he looks in his hand, and he's still got this kind of miniature version of this flute, and I think that because it almost feels like it's manifested itself to him. He feels compelled to play it, and I think he in some way thinks that he can use it to in some way tap into the resonance of this room and that spiritual musical energy, and have it in some way weaken or mesmerize the spirit that's possessing this wooden figurehead. And I think that the good result here is that's going to happen, and I think that it will be sufficiently weakened for you to be able to deal a killer blow to it. And that will wrap it up, because that'll be a second success. I think the bad thing is, I think I will start to become enraptured by the melody. An unintended consequence of this will be the melody that comes out possesses me instead. Those dark melodies.
Yep.
Let's see.
Oh my goodness, Frisbee!
Doubles again. So double fours say there is a cost, a tough choice, or a complication.
Oh, I have a suggestion, which is if your failure state was that you become enchanted by the music, what if Cassian is the one who starts to fall under the sway of it, because he's so close to this thing as the music is playing towards the narwhal, but he's kind of caught up in it. And so I think he is maybe his grip on his dagger kind of slackens, and he kind of starts to slump down to the floor as if he's just almost catatonic.
I wonder if the effect I had was desired, but I got both of you, and it was like a 60-40 split, and like you came off far less badly, but you still. So how does first of all, how do you resolve? How does the effect of me playing that flute weaken the narwhal gargoyle, which is a hard word to say? How does it do that? And you finish it off, and then what's the remnant of the melody that's left in you?
I mean, do we feel like that? Like, do we need to get another success still?
No, because I mean, when you roll like doubles, you kind of get to choose what happens. But I think what I would like to say is that we get the success and we complete this room. But I would say that we add a peril card rather than the power card.
Agreed. Okay. So I would say that Cassian, his grip kind of starts to slacken on it, on his dagger. He's starting to like crumple down to the ground, like he's being overcome by this melody. The narwhal gargoyle is also kind of like slowing down. And I think Cassian like reaches into his pocket again and he pulls out his trinket and flicks it open again. And that tone kind of intermingles with the melody that you're playing. And he is able to then like, it strengthens him enough that he can drive the dagger back up. And his arm actually like passes through deeper now, and the thing goes still. But I think when Cassian pulls the dagger out and kind of looks down at the trinket, I think there is a fourth petal that has manifested on there.
Very nice.
And now there's like a syncope where there's like a skipped beat when that tone plays.
I really like the idea as well as you struck it, it goes back to being completely rigid and wooden and just a figurehead, and just kind of maybe topples to the side with a big splintered gouge in its underside. And I think that I don't think we did particularly well there. I think that the cost of doing that has cost both of us something. So I'm going to add that to the peril pile. So we're at 2 to 1. And I think that perhaps we are hastened towards the next room because nothing good happened in this music room.
Nope.
Which one would you like to go in?
Let's go to the left room.
What could go wrong? Well, we've found a secret passage because there are 2 sevens. Do you want to tell us what room we discover as we bundle out of the music room and down the hall?
Yeah, so we bundle down the hall and we stumble into the master bedroom, a refuge of comfort and solitude, the slumber of sorrow.
Why do we know it's the master bedroom, like off the bat?
It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a massive like 4-poster bed, and like a huge armoire and just a big old sea chest. And there's probably like, I think at this point we're probably on the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
And there is a balcony that looks out over the cliffside towards the sea and is looking almost directly towards that lighthouse.
I'm just going to add one thing to it because I love all that stuff that you've come up with. Set into the headboard is the wheel of a ship, and it's like gilded and it's polished to a high sheen. What curiosity do we see down the bottom there, please?
Floating candlesticks cast in an eerie light. To what is the light guiding?
Well, that's never good, is it? Floating candles. So how do these manifest? Do you think it's like a ritual circle, like ritual candles, maybe? Oh, I wonder if that's it. I wonder if, like, perhaps they're not actually floating, but I think maybe if you'll go with this, maybe Morwen can see, perhaps using his cube as like a prism to view this scene in. I wonder if he sees candles floating, but if he puts the cube down and like, you know, Cassian would see this as well. Like normally, the candles are on the floor and they're discarded. But if I look at it through the prism and then down again, like I'm actually seeing floatings. And I think that this spot here, where the candles were floating, I think this was like someone was trying to cast a protective ward, and I think these were ritual candles. And I think if you took an elevated position to look at it, you'd see them, you know, not in a pentagram because that's cliched, but like in, you know, they've fallen in the position of some kind of symbol.
Yeah, I mean they're in the symbol of the sextant, right?
Oh yeah, that's the good shit there. So yeah, and I think that whoever was in here tried unsuccessfully to ward something off with these ritual candles. And I wonder whether, because we've described it as being quite nice, I mean, but like, you know, the ship's wheel is polished and it's like it's well appointed. I wonder whether like this was like the last room where the person who lived here felt like they were safe.
Yeah,
they could go to bed every night, do this ritual, and they wouldn't be bothered. But like, it's got too much for them, and they've had to leave because the ritual failed. In which case, what is the bad? What's the bad thing that happens? Let's just get to it.
Oh, the freeze! Intense cold spots appear. Locks and hinges are encased in frost, making doors immovable and windows sealed.
I think that as Morwen is looking and keeping looking and trying to kind of picture this scene, he can't picture any people. He can just picture the thing that happened here. Every time he looks up, it's slightly cloudier, and then he realizes that it's frozen solid on the outside.
Yep.
And then he turns to you. How do we see you feeling this freeze?
I think that Cassian is like he's like flipped the dagger now where the blade is pointing down, and so that charm is kind of like almost like a rosary is like dangling over the top of his fist, and his like hand is kind of to his chest, and there's frost that has kind of like started to accumulate on the scales of his armor. But there's this like very faint red glow from that pendant as like this heat is like warming the breastplate of his armor, but then there's like actual ice forming on his shoulders, and it looks like his like eyes are closed and like he's trying to focus on stoking this fire.
I love that. I think it's great. I think Morwen's going to try and deal with this he's going to try and reignite the candles. And I think that this is such a thing that like, I don't think he would just ask you to do it with your kind of flame ability. I think maybe he's assuming it's too cold, but like he thinks that he can utter some incantation that will get these ritual candles back up again. So I'm going to say that the good outcome of this roll is that the candles will come back up to light, and they will also light the way out. I think the bad outcome is that will happen, but it will let the spirit that's here, or whatever is here, the evil that's here, it's gonna tell them in no uncertain terms that we are here to get rid of it. Happy with those stakes?
Sounds good. Hey,
so I think Morwen has a little tinderbox, and he kind of quickly goes about it and lights those candles and like puts them back out in the shape of a sextant, and the cold dissipates away from Morwen. He stood in the middle of this this arrangement of candles and looks over to you, and I think maybe like you've got ice forming around your mouth and eyes, and in your hair it looks like it's dotted. How are you dealing with this?
I think that he is trying to focus on that flame. He is like, I've just realized that I've basically given myself 2 trinkets.
That's fine. Such
But
a
it makes
power
sense.
gamer, Steve. Such
I
a power
know. I just
power
inveterate.
gaming, a story game.
Uh-huh. But I think he's focusing on that the small bit of flame that is in this charm, and it's not powerful enough to kind of push back the strength of this cold. And so I think that he is going to then still focusing on that, but once again he's going to pull out that now quartet of metallic petals and flick it open, because if he can kind of fuel the fire with the harmonic tune of his heartbeat, he's kind of like giving fuel to that fire to burn stronger in the room. And so he is going to flick it open and start to fan the flames in order to try and push this back. So
set the stakes, please.
Yeah, I feel like the better outcome here is that together through these 2 actions, we're able to push this freeze away and kind of dispel whatever power is kind of creating this oppression here. I think the less good outcome is that Cassian cannot fan these flames enough, and the cold snuffs out the flame that's in that little charm that he carries.
I've got a slight alteration to make to it.
Okay.
I think that the less good outcome is, and you can choose which one of these you want, yours or mine. I think the less good outcome is that you do manage to fan the flames and we do drive out the cold. But I think the less good outcome is that we'll succeed in this challenge, but this card will go in the peril section, and at some point, whatever we're facing will use the freeze against us.
I mean, I love failing forward, so yeah, let's go with that.
Cool. Roll them up.
Wow.
Doing good. So tell us how it looks.
What this is setting myself up for a huge disappointment when it counts.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us how that goes down, and then we'll adjust the boss deck and move on.
Yeah. So I think that you've got the flames going in this sextant pattern, and it is both the resonance of like the heartbeat, and there's still that dissonance there, that offbeat, but it can't quite like break the power of the harmonic tone as this continues to build, as it kind of once again like circles around the room. And I think that flame that is in the charm is fueled by not only that sound and that strength of Cassian's heartbeat, but also it starts to draw on the actual fire that's in the room of the candles that you lit, and they kind of feed off of each other. And so the candles in this pattern start to glow brighter as the charm starts to glow brighter, and the ice like starts to melt away, and suddenly this room is kind of suffused with this warm glow as the heat, strangely enough, the heat from these small candles is enough to warm the room dramatically, and that ice melts away into Once again, pools of water on the floor, and these ghostly faces flicker through them
Oh,
as they run down in rivulets through the floorboards.
love that. Love that.